everybody. That was my amazing sound technician sorting out the sound for you guys now. Just move this over a little bit this way. There we go. Hello everybody. Welcome to Sunday evening. It is Sunday evening, at least where I am in Austria. I hope you have all had a great weekend. If your Sunday is still about to happen, I hope you have a wonderful Sunday still. And oh, thank you very much for the likes and hearts. That's so lovely. Hi, Marcus. Who else? Oh, hi, everybody. Hi, Anita. Sorry about last night. I tell you why I moved last night to tonight. It's a little bit of an embarrassing story. I actually think I managed to give my family food poisoning by cooking something in the oven. And I had put loads of spray in the oven on Wednesday, and on Thursday morning my husband came in all jubilant and said, "I've cleaned the oven." And I thought, oh, fantastic, then I don't have to clean the oven anymore because he's already cleaned it. Then on Saturday evening, I cooked us a dinner which we baked in the oven. And as we were eating the end of the meal, my son said, "This does taste rather funny." And I said, "Yes, it does, doesn't it?" I said, "It tastes like washing up liquid." And we determined that we had given ourselves, or I had given us all food poisoning, because my husband had obviously not cleaned everything in the oven and not cleaned away all the detergent that I had placed in there. So we were all suffering a little bit yesterday evening. However, it's lovely to see you tonight. I'm so glad you've all come. I wanted to say a couple of things before I forget about next week. Samantha will be back with us on Wednesday. On Tuesday evening, Robert Pym, if you all enjoyed his reading last week, on Tuesday, Robert Pym will be back to read. Many of you will have already seen it. He'll be back on Tuesday evening to read from his new book, Blood Summit, which is a political thriller set in Berlin. I have another friend, Thomas Weihnappel, who's a really phenomenal... hold on a minute, let me just do this. Who is a really phenomenal opera singer, and I directed him in an opera that I did 3 years ago in Schloss Kirchstetten when we did the Hochzeit des Figos, whatever it was, I can't remember now. I'm having an age moment. Anyway, he's a wonderful opera singer, and he's going to be releasing a concert that he did on his web page and somewhere else. I believe it's to be watched. And I will put up that link if you like opera. He's a phenomenal voice. And I will put up that opera for you, or that concert for you, when it happens as well, or the link to it on my website. And tonight, Jeanette very kindly shared with us another bit. This time it's not a monologue. Tonight she shared with us her favourite poem. And it was actually the favourite poem of her mother, Maria, who passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. And Jeanette wanted to read this poem and dedicate it to her mother. So she has read a poem for you tonight, and it is actually a really beautiful one and a little bit apt for the time that we are going through right now. It's a very, very famous British poem called If by Rudyard Kipling. So please feel free to hang on afterwards. Once this live video has stopped at 22:30, Jeanette's video should come up on our Facebook page, on the Vienna Theatre Project Facebook page, and then you can listen to this very wonderful, very lovely poem called If by Rudyard Kipling. And for some reason you're still making noise. Why are you still... There we go. Now you're not making noise anymore. Right, okay. So those are the few announcements I wanted to make. This evening we are back to reading 1001 Arabian Nights. Anita will be very pleased to hear. This is all for Anita, of course, because she tells us every day what we should do and we just do it. Tonight we are on the 17th night. Now I have to give you a very, very small recap on what's been going on so far. This is like I don't know what they call it in soap operas. It's that Vorschau or whatever, so that you know what's happened so far. Remember, for those of you who've been listening we had the three ladies of Baghdad, and on pain of death, they had made some guests of theirs tell them their stories as to why they were in the situation that they were in, because they'd lost eyes and had been ex-princes, and all this story happened as a result of that. And then they let these men go free. The reason why the men had to tell them their stories was because they had asked these ladies, the ladies of Baghdad, in their home, what had befallen them, even though the ladies had said they were not allowed to. Finally, they all left, they were all freed, and the next day, the caliph, who pretended to be a merchant, sent one of his wazirs over, or somebody or other, sent one of his slaves, whatever, over to the ladies of Baghdad, demanded they come and see him, and now he is asking them to tell him what had befallen them. And we were in the middle of the youngest lady's story, and what had happened to her is her parents had died. There were these two young bitches, these two young dogs, who she was beating during this dinner that all these guests had been at. And the reason why she was beating them was they were her two sisters. And these two sisters had inherited money along with her and her parents, from her parents who had died. And the two sisters got married and their husbands squandered all their money. So they went back to live with her, and she managed to make the money turn into more money. And then the two sisters got married again because they were bored of being single, and she gave them a dowry, and the new husband squandered the money again and ran off again. And so the two sisters came to live with her again, and then they decided to set sail to foreign lands to sell goods that the younger sister had procured because she was a very good merchant. So off they set on this ship, and they ended up leaving the seas of safety to the seas of danger. They came upon this land that had a city in it, and in this city they came upon all the people in the city who had been turned to black stone. They had been turned to black stone by Allah because they had been worshipping the fire god. And Allah didn't like this, so he turned them all to black stone. And all the people, the captain, the two sisters, and this younger sister, one of the ladies of Baghdad, had disembarked from their ship, found this empty city with all the wares in the marketplace still open. So there was copper, there was gold. Then the younger sister went to the palace and found lots of jewels, and she saw the sheikh there and his wife, and they were all bedecked with jewels, and they decided they were going to take these jewels eventually. And she came across this young man who happened to be the prince and the son of the sheikh. And he had not turned to stone because he had actually been praying to Allah and not praying to the fire god. And when she met him, she spent the night with him actually, but only in conversation. So they have spent the night together in conversation. And she has now convinced him to come back to her city with her and live with her and be with her. And now we're going to find out why her other two older sisters turned into bitches, what happened to the young prince, and what happened to her. And I have to tell you, it's a slightly riveting story. So I hope you have a glass of wine with you. I have tea, I have water, which I'm going to take a sip of now before I start drinking. This is water, by the way, and not vodka or anything else. And I hope you are sitting very, very comfortably and you are going to enjoy this story from Vienna Theatre Project this evening, or if it's your morning or your lunchtime, whatever time of the day it is for you. Thank you very much. So, now then, it was the 18th night, not the 17th night, because I read the 17th night the other day. So, it was the 18th night. Shahrazad continued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the lady ceased not persuading with soft speech the youth to depart with her till he consented and said yes. She slept that night lying at his feet, and hardly knowing where she was for the excess of joy. As soon as the next morning dawned, she pursued, addressing the caliph, I rose, and we entered the treasuries, and took thence whatever was light in weight and great in worth. Then we went down side by side from the castle to the city, where we were met by the captain and my sisters and slaves who had been seeking for me. When they saw me, they were rejoiced and asked what had stayed me. And I told them all I had seen and related to them the story of the young prince and the transformation wherewith the citizens had been justly visited. Hereat all marvelled. But when my two sisters, these two bitches, O Commander of the Faithful, saw me by the side of my young lover, they jealoused me on his account, and were wroth, and plotted mischief against me. We awaited a fair wind, and went on board rejoicing, and ready to fly for joy by reason of the goods we had gotten. But mine own greatest joyance was in the youth, and we waited a while, till the wind blew fair for us, and then we set sail, and fared forth. Now, as we sat talking, my sisters asked me, "And what wilt thou do with this handsome young man?" And I answered, "I purpose to make him my husband." Then I turned to him and said, "O my lord, I have that to propose thee wherein thou must not cross me. And this is it. When we reach Baghdad, my native city, I offer thee my life as thy handmaiden in holy matrimony. And thou shalt be to me a baron, and I will fem to thee." And he answered, "I hear, and I obey. Thou art my lady, and my mistress, and what thou doest I will not gainsay." Then I turned to my sisters and said, "This is my gain. I content me with this youth, and those who have gotten aught of my property, let them keep it as their gain with my good will." "Thou sayest, and doest well," answered the twain. But they imagined mischief against me. We ceased not spooning before a fair wind, till we had exchanged the sea of peril for the seas of safety, and in a few days we made Bassorah city, whose buildings loomed clear before us as evening fell. But after we had retired to rest and were sound asleep, my two sisters arose and took me up, bed and all, and threw me into the sea. They did the same with the young prince, who, as he could not swim, sank and was drowned, and Allah enrolled him in the noble army of martyrs. As for me, would heaven I had been drowned with him, but Allah deemed that I should be of the saved. So, when I awoke and found myself in the sea, and saw the ship making off like a flash of lightning, he threw me in way of a piece of timber, which I bestrided, and the waves tossed me to and fro, till they cast me upon an island coast, a highland and an uninhabited. I landed, and walked about the island the rest of the night, and when morning dawned, I saw a rough track, barely fit for child of Adam to tread, leading to what proved a shallow ford connecting island and mainland. As soon as the sun had risen, I spread my garments to dry in its rays, and ate of the fruits of the island, and drank of its waters. Then I set out along the foot track, and ceased not walking till I reached the mainland. Now, when there remained between me and the city but a 2 hours' journey, behold, a great serpent, the bigness of a date palm, came fleeing towards me in all haste, gliding along now to the right, then to the left, till she was close upon me, whilst her tongue lolled groundwards a span long and swept the dust as she went. She was pursued by a dragon, who was not longer than 2 lances, and of slender build about the bulk of a spearhead, and, although her terror lent her speed, she kept wriggling from side to side. He overtook her and seized her by the tail, whereat her tears streamed down, and her tongue was thrust out to her in agony. I took pity on her, and breaking up a stone and calling upon Allah for aid, threw it at the dragon's head, with such force that he died then and there, and the serpent, opening a pair of wings, flew into the lift and disappeared before my eyes. I sat down, marvelling over that adventure, but I was weary, and drowsiness overcoming me, I slept where I was for a while. When I awoke, I found a jet black damsel sitting at my feet, shampooing them, and by her side stood 2 black bitches. My sisters, O Commander of the Faithful. I was ashamed before her, and sitting up, asked her, O my sister, who and what art thou? And she answered, How soon hast thou forgotten me? I am she for whom thou wroughtest a good deed, and sowedst the seed of gratitude and slewest her foe. For I am the serpent who, by Allah's aidance, thou didst just now deliver from the dragon. I am a jinniya, and he was a jinn who hated me, and none saved my life from him, save thou. As soon as thou freedest me from him, I flew on the wind to the ship whence thy sisters threw thee, and removed all that were therein to thy house. Then I ordered my attendant Marids to sink the ship, and I transformed thy 2 sisters into these black bitches. For I know all that have passed between them and thee. But as for the youth, of a truth, he is drowned. So saying, she flew up with me and the bitches, and presently set us down on the terrace roof of my house, wherein I found ready stored the whole of what property was in my ship, nor was aught of it missing. Now, continued the serpent that was, I swear by all engraven on the seal ring of Solomon, with whom be peace, unless thou deal to each of these bitches 300 stripes every day, I will come and imprison thee for ever under the earth. I answered, hearkening and obedience, and away she flew. But before going, she again charged me, saying, I again swear by him who made the 2 seas flow, and this be my 2nd oath. If thou gainsay me, I will come and transform thee like thy sisters. Since then, I have never failed, O Commander of the Faithful, to beat them with that number of blows till their blood flows with my tears. I pitying them the while, and well they wot that their being scourged in no fault of mine, and they accept my excuses. And this is my tale and my history. The Caliph marvelled at her adventures, and then signed to Jafar, who said to the 2nd lady, the portress, And thou, how camest thou by the welts and wheals upon thy body? And so began the tale of the portress. Know, O Commander of the Faithful, that I had a father who, all fulfilling his time, deceased and left me great store of wealth. I remained single for a short time, and presently married one of the richest of his day. I abode with him a year, when he also died, and my share of his property amounted to 80,000 dinars. in gold according to the holy law of inheritance. Thus I became passing rich, and my reputation spread far and wide, for I had made me 10 changes of raiment, each worth 1,000 dinars. One day, as I was sitting at home, behold, there came to me an old woman with lantern jaws and cheeks sucked in, and eyes chucked up, and eyebrows scant and scald, and head bare and bold, teeth broken by time and mauled, and back bending, and neck nodding, face blotched, and rheum running, and hair like a snake black and white speckled, in complexion a very fright, even if saith the poet of the like of her, ill-omened hag, aye and shriven by her sins, nor mercy visit her on the dying bed. 1,000 head strongest he-mules would be her guiles, despite their building, led with spider thread. When the old woman entered, she salamed me, and kissing the ground before me, said, I have at home an orphan daughter, and this night are her wedding and her displaying. We be poor folks and strangers in the city, knowing none inhabitant, we are broken-hearted. So do thou earn for thyself a recompense and a reward in heaven by being present at her displaying, and, when the ladies of this city shall hear that thou art to make an active presence, they also will present themselves. So shalt thou comfort her affliction, for she is sore bruised in spirit, and she hath none to look save Allah the Most High. Then she wept and kissed my feet, reciting these couplets. Thy presence bringeth us a grace, we own before thy winsome face, and wert thou absent near and one, could stand instead or take thy place. So pity gat hold on me, and compassion, and I said, hearing is consenting, and please Allah, I will do somewhat more for her. Nor shall she be shown to her bridegroom, save in my raiment and ornaments and jewellery. At this, the old lady rejoiced and bowed her head to my feet and kissed them, saying, Allah requite thy weal and comfort thy heart, even as thou hast comforted mine. But, O my lady, do not trouble thyself to do me this service at this hour. Be thou ready by supper time, when I will come and fetch thee. So saying, she kissed my hand and went her ways. I set about stringing my pearls and donning my brocades and making my toilet, like recking what fortune had in womb for me, when suddenly the old woman stood before me, simpering and smiling, till she showed every tooth-stump, and quoth she, O my mistress, the city madams have arrived, and when I apprised them thou promised to be present, they were glad, and they are now waiting for thee, and looking eagerly for thy coming, and for the honour of meeting thee. So I threw on my mantilla, and making the old crone walk before me, and my handmaidens walk behind me, I fared till we came to a street, well watered and swept neat, where the winnowing breeze blew cool and sweet. Here we stopped by a gate, arched over with a dome of marble stone, firmly seated on solidest foundation, and leading to a palace whose walls were from earth rose tall and proud, and whose pinnacle was crowned by the cloud, and over the doorway were writ these couplets. I am the womb where mirth shall ever smile, the home of joyance through my lasting while. Amid my court a fountain jets and flows, nor tears nor troubles shall that fount defile. The marge with royal bloom is dight, myrtle, narcissus flower, and chamomile. Arrived at the gate, before which hung a black curtain, the old woman knocked, and it was opened to us. And when we entered and found a vestibule spread with carpets and hung around with lamps all alight, and wax candles in candelabra adorned with pendants, precious gems and noble oars. We passed on through this passage till we entered a saloon, whose like for grandeur and beauty is not to be found in this world. It was hung and carpeted with silken stuffs, and was illuminated with branches, sconces, tapers, ranged in double row, an avenue butting on the upper, on noble end of the saloon, where stood a couch of juniper wood, encrusted with pearls and gems, and surmounted by a baldaquin with mosquito curtains of satin looped up with marguerites. And hardly had we taken note of all this when there came forth